coming up on episode 289 of Wheel Bearings, we've got a bunch of stuff for you, including the GMC Hummer EV Edition 1, the Kia EV6 GT, the Mazda CX-50. Is the Cybertruck going to be dead in the water? Some details on the sensors for GM's Ultra Cruise, Ford Mustang infotainment system, and a whole bunch more. All that coming up next. This is episode 289 of Wheel Bearings. I am Sam Abul Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
And I am Nicole Wakeland, and we will go with Sports Car Market Magazine this week.
Well, that's a good one.
I know.
Yeah, I've had it for a while. I just don't think I say that one. I do interviews for them with really cool people. It's fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Who am I? Oh, yeah. I am Roberto Baldwin, and this week I'll be with Engadget. Since I did a video for them this week, right?
That counts.
Yeah, did you?
I did the Tesla thing. That's what.
Oh. What, on the Investor Day?
No, God. I tested the charging network.
Oh, that, yeah, on the
BMW
iX. Yes.
Yeah, drove 2 hours. 2 hours up to Placerville to test out a charging thingy-majiggy.
Okay.
As is my way.
Why don't you start, Nicole?
Oh, I start. Okay. I have the 2023 Mazda CX-50, which is brand spanking new, like totally new, not like an all new this year, but like all newy new. It didn't exist until 2023. So this is, I don't know, crossover number 852,999 to join the vehicle marketplace, I think, roughly.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least in the compact segment.
Yes.
Yeah, then there's mid-size and full-size. But
right. Which would make the number higher.
Yes.
So many crossovers.
So many crossovers. But the first thing, I just want to say this again because it's so true. Mazda makes the single most beautiful red paint of any automaker everywhere. I love the red paint. This is that.
It's
What is it?
so nice that Tesla is trying to copy it with their latest thing. I looked at it, I'm like, oh, they saw Mazda's red paint. They heard
Does
us
it
all
look
talking
like
about
Mazda?
it.
It's so red, crystal metallic. What it is just gorgeous. I feel like everybody else should just give up and pay Mazda premium. They should just call it Mazda
just
Red.
license Mazda's paint.
Like I would like Mazda Red on my F-150. Sure, here you go, Mazda Red F-150. Like it should be available on everything. It's so stinking pretty. So I have this. It's a compact crossover. So it's not super large. I mean, it's not something you're going to want to put your family in. You can seat 5 people, kinda. I feel like you can seat 4 people.
well, there's 5 seatbelts.
There's 5 seatbelts.
Seatbelts.
I don't know how you would. I honestly, 3 people, I think, in the back seat of that would be impossible. 3 Robbies in the back seat of that? Absolutely not. Never in a million years.
No.
So it's really for it's got enough room for 3 in the back and it has seatbelts for 3, but you want to keep it to 2 unless it's just for about 30 seconds that you're all driving. Standard all-wheel drive, which is nice. So it's good for snow, which I got to drive it in a little bit of mucky weather here, which was kind of nice. And it handled just fine in the snow. It has a typical Mazda interior. This is the, let's see, blah, 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 premium plus package. So I think I'm pretty high on the lineup. It's got some extra stuff on it, but they just do such pretty interiors. In addition to having the single best red paint on the entire planet, they do some very premium looking interiors. Like the one I have is $44,170. But when you look at the leather seats and all the little accent stitching and how they've done it, you would swear you were looking at a far more expensive car. They really do a fabulous interior. It's very comfy. 6'3" husband had no issues with it. He had plenty of room for his legs without being totally squished. But as soon as he has enough room, though, like I said, that back seat is just not really big. So if he pushes that back seat at a comfortable spot for him, you're going to be hard pressed to sit behind him. It's it's snug. 2 6-foot people are not sitting in behind each other, in front of each other. They're not going to do that. It would be awful. As far as power, it is a 2.5 liter twin scroll turbocharger. That's 227 HP, 310 pound-feet. That's a pretty good amount of power. This isn't a tiny, a big car. It's relatively small. When you're pressing the gas, it goes. It really, it has a lot of oomph, good amount of oomph, nice and zippy. It is a little bit noisy though. When you're really accelerating hard, you get a little bit of engine noise. Like I know you kind of want to hear an engine to a certain point. It's like, oh, cool engine, but this one gets a little bit whiny.
Too
like
much.
Yeah, it's a little too much. It could stand to be maybe like a little more sound deadening between me and the engine would be a good idea. And it has a 6-speed automatic that's nice and smooth. I mean, it has that very Mazda, decent, good amount of power, shifts smoothly that you would expect. It's just a little bit noisy, and the handling is great. I mean, really, as crossovers go, crossovers aren't known, especially small ones, for necessarily being these really fun, sporty things to drive. But again, Mazda. So it has very athletic handling. It's great in the corners. It's, if you're trying to navigate in between like heavy highway traffic and, it stays very composed. You always feel very in control. I like driving this. It's very, very fun. It has all the cool little features that I love in the freezing cold. Like there's heated seats and a heated steering wheel. And I need to comment that heated steering wheel, they're not messing around. I mean, I feel like heated steering wheel is underselling it. It's like molten lava steering wheel available. Like it gets so hot, which is not a bad thing. I'm like, oh, I love this. It's so warm. So it is very.
You just wanted it to get hot really quick. So you put it on molten lava and then you back it off a little to like pot at home.
Right. You just want to take it from molten lava down one step. Yeah. To like teapot on the stove.
Yeah.
So I loved how warm it was though, because my hands are always cold. You can you can tow 3,500 pounds in this, which isn't a huge amount, but it looks so small because it's got that very sporty, it's got that very sporty, sleek styling. It has that sports car-ish styling. In my head, it doesn't look like it should really be able to tow. And again, 3,500 pounds. There you go.
Take your motorcycles out somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. If I knew how to drive a motorcycle.
A boat. Jet ski.
And you guys, it has a touch screen for a Mazda. Yay! Okay, so there's a 10.25-inch color screen and you can touch it. There's still the wonky dial that I hate, that I will always hate. Everybody's wrong but me. I hate that dial. But it does have a touch screen, which I love. But the only thing that's kind of weird is it's designed to not have a touch screen. So it's set very far back, sort of on the dashboard. Like
it's really back there.
Yeah. So if you put your fingertips touching the touch screen, it's like your wrist almost like straight out. Your wrist is what's hitting the edge of the dashboard. So it's a good like hand length inside the dashboard. I'm like, I don't care. I'm touching that dang screen. So it does have a touch screen, which makes me very, very happy because I can't, you guys, with a controller. I just can't. And I'm driving the CX-90. Am I in the right car? CX-90 shortly. And I'm like, it's going to have that wonky controller again. Grumble, 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 grumble. So.
Rubble.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the Mazda CX-50. I really like this. I think it's a good addition to the marketplace. There are so many choices, but I think what differentiates this is it does, again, that for that price, $44,170, you get an interior that looks like you should have paid more than that. It's a really slick interior and it does have really nice sporty handling that makes driving this little crossover fun. It feels less like crossover, more like little, sedan-ish in terms of how well it handles. So I like it. Wait, I forgot. And not what's the number we always guess? Oh my God, destination.
Oh, 1,100.
$995.
Oh, Robbie wins, $1,275. Go on for Robbie. Woo, woo, woo. So $1,275. So it is one of the higher ones. So that's the Mazda CX-50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Baldwin, you're up.
I drove the somehow I just deleted it.
Whoops is the Whoops an up and coming new EV brand?
I don't know how that happened. I drove the Kia EV6 GT. They're the fast, ridiculous station wagon. They're going to keep calling it a crossover or small SUV or whatever. It's a station wagon. It's a dope station wagon. And so the problem with the EV6 GT is that the EV6 is good already. Like you just get the EV, like, oh, this is a fun car to drive. It's got plenty of power. It's got lots of room. It's like all the things that you want from a car. The EV6 like delivers. And they're like, wait, but what if it can outrun Lamborghinis? What? No. Stay with me here. And so that's what it feels like with the like someone at Kia is like, hey guys, they're looking around. What if we outran some Lamborghinis? And what if we kept like up, almost we just barely lost to a McLaren. What if we, it's just like, it's almost like
you envision them like sitting around a table after they've had a couple of drinks on a Friday night in a bar going, guys, wait, we can do this. And then they did it.
Guess what I figured out? If we just tweak this and we change some of the suspension and we add bigger brakes, we can do this.
We can do this.
We can do this. And so, so I had the EV6 GT. And so I reviewed it for Ars Technica, and I did a different type of review rather than just saying, hey, this is what it is, this is what, it goes faster, it does this, is it worth it or is it not worth it based on price, blah blah blah. I tried to decide, is it worth the extra time, because there's the M's, the BMW M series, the AMG, the Mercedes-Benz AMG. You're paying a premium for a quicker, better car. Is essentially, and so like, okay, well that's fine. You're going to pay more if you want the EV6 GT. What the difference between those vehicles though is with let's say an M2, it's not as efficient, but getting gas is really easy. Gas stations are everywhere. You just put in gas. It's no matter where you go, gas usually comes out at the same rate as it does up the street. Charging though is they're not charging everywhere. They're sometimes you go to charging stations and they're not great. And so what I try to do is I try to figure out what is the difference in charging on a 400-mile trip with an EV6 GT versus a regular EV6, both the Wind and the GT line, which again, that's a whole weird thing. And I found out that if you're doing a 400-mile trip, it is, oh my God, where's the stupid times? I do all this math, and now all I have is the number in my brain. It's under
math. Oh, it's a Saturday night, no math.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes. Oh, okay. So if you're going between it's 10 minutes more if you're using the EV6 GT. If you're lucky and you can get 200 kilowatts, and that's what I kept getting whenever I took this car out. I was either getting above that or getting 200. Again, but of course, so if you're thinking about it in terms of how much fun, and I talked about how time flies when you're having fun and all the studies they've done about that and how that works, and versus boredom of sitting where time seems to elongate. And so the whole thing came down to, if you're cool with 11 minutes of extra charging, the EV6 GT is totally worth it. It's a fun car. It's fun to drive. Versus the GT line, it's only like $5,000 more. It's, like when you think about it value-wise, if you're an enthusiast, it's a go for it. But then I have to bring it all the way back to that. And that comes down to charging. And the problem is, yes, the car will charge it up to 240 kilowatts. I kept seeing 200 kilowatts. I got 240 a few times, 230, but I kept getting 200 kilowatts when I took the car in to charge. Nice. And so that's what I ended up using. But that doesn't mean everyone's going to get 200 kilowatts. So you have to take all these other things into account when you're looking at EVs, especially these performance EVs or these EVs with these giant batteries, the Hummer, the F-150.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. And so you're if you have to take the charging network near your house, especially when you have these big batteries, or if you're using these enthusiast cars, you have to yes, in theory, everything should be perfect or it should be great. But in practice, it might not be so. It might not be so great, because you might end up, these extra, that 10 minutes of extra time that you have to stop and charge, and might end up being 45 minutes. It might end up being an hour on a 400-mile trip, which you're just like, So then you have to really think. So the bottom line is EV6 GT, it's a great car. Can you take it on road trips? Yes. Is it going to take longer? Yes, it's going to take longer. But if you're somebody who enjoys an enthusiast car, it's more than likely going to be perfect, unless you start hitting a series of charging stations that are just messed up. I did another thing.
Gee, I don't know what that's like at all.
Exactly.
Charging station. I don't know what you're talking about.
Not with a Kia EV6 anyway.
Never experienced anything like that ever, Robbie. You're full of it.
So it's
only in California where it's a problem.
I know. Earlier this week, this past week, I also took the BMW iX to a Tesla charging station way up in Placerville, because there's only like 2 of them in the Bay Area that support non-Tesla. There's only like 8 in the country. But there's 2 in the Bay Area, not even in the Bay Area, 2 near the Bay Area that support charging of non-EVs. And on the way there, because I was going to a new charging station from a company that's, typically doesn't charge, I was like, what if I get there and it doesn't work and now I'm hosed? So I'd be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to stop at the EEA station near my house and just sort of top up the car, because it was like at 60%, throw up to 80. I got there and it was charging at 8 kilowatts.
That was on the old chargers, right?
No. Well, yeah. But no, it's on the old chargers. It was a 150, but I was like, I can charge faster at my house. So I ended up driving, further, and I still had a little bit of paranoia. So before I got there, I stopped at another EA station. It was like 130 or 137 or whatever. It ended up like going faster. 8. I don't remember. It was faster than 8. And then when I got to the Tesla one, it was like pretty steady about 130 the entire time, which just shows that Tesla knows what they're doing when they're making charging stations.
Pretty much. At
that point, who knows? I could have gone back the next day and got 8 kilowatts at the Tesla charging station. So long story short, EV6 GT, it's a great car if you're an enthusiast. It's very fast. It's very powerful. I drove around in GT mode the entire time when I was doing the test for this thing. I got I believe it was 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour. Let me look. Hold on. I've been doing so much math. There we go.
Math.
Like versus my regular 100-mile loop, which I'm just driving as a regular person, where I got 3.1 miles per kilowatt hour. I got 2.6 when I put it in GT mode. So just like half a mile a kilowatt hour you're losing, but that's not so bad. I mean, the cars are still pretty efficient. But I definitely destroyed that 206 mile range. I think I got it down to 192 was the range I was going to get if I continued to drive like a crazy person.
But it was worth it for the fun.
It was worth it for the fun, because I drove the side, I drove up to Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
The roads are all windy and there's some, some straights, and the roads are, in pretty good condition because, tourism. And it's just it's just a great fun car to sort of drive around, and I had a good time. And that's really what it comes down to. If you want a car, have a good time, EV6 GT. And if you have a car, you want to go around town, you could still take it around town. But if you need a more practical car, there's others on the road, likely from Hyundai, really, to be honest.
Practical Hyundai cars.
Practical, yeah. You want a practical car that's highly efficient, that charges quickly when the charging stations are working like they're supposed to. The Hyundai Motor Group, it's hard to argue.
Yep, yeah, pretty much.
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. We've updated the Wheel Bearings merch store, and now there's a whole bunch of new choices, new colors, new styles, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, travel mugs, stickers, aprons, tote bags, you name it. You can get your Wheel Bearings merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. Go check it out. That's shop.wheelbearings.media. Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops. or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. All right. Well, I had a vehicle that really makes the case for why you absolutely want to have really good, reliable, really fast charging. And that is the 2022 Hummer EV Pickup Edition 1. How shall I put this? This thing is ridiculous.
It's a Hummer. That's the whole thing. It is there. Like it doesn't matter if it's gas or if it's electric or if it's running on like butterfly farts. It's a Hummer. It's inefficient. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make it.
Butterfly farts. I'm going to envision that coming out of under the hood of a GMC Hummer. Little butterfly fart.
You know, the thing as I was driving this thing around. So I got it, and on Friday night last week we had a snowstorm that came through, dropped 8 inches of wet, heavy snow everywhere. And so Saturday morning, I'm taking this thing out for a drive, bombing around some back roads. And this thing is great, at plowing through anything, because once you get it moving, it's got so much momentum, because, momentum is equal to mass times velocity. And, so if you make either one of those numbers large, you're going to have a lot of momentum. And in this case, the mass is extremely large. I took this thing, and keep in mind, okay, this truck is 16 inches shorter than an F-150 Lightning. All right. So it's actually not as long as a Lightning. I took it to a weigh scale. Okay. I stepped out of it, measured the weight. 9,200 pounds.
My gosh.
Empty.
It's totally lightweight. I don't know what you're complaining about.
And that's without even the optional spare tire.
But you have to just shove in the back.
Yeah, because because they've shortened it. It's got the really relatively short overhangs for off-roading, unlike the F-150, which has it's not really set up for off-roading. It's not optimized for that. The F-150 has a spare tire that hangs under the back of the bed. Between the frame rails, just like any other pickup truck. And the Hummer does not. There's not enough room back there between the battery and the rear bumper. So if you want to get the optional spare tire, and somebody asked, I think in the Discord or maybe in Mastodon, how big the jack is. Well, this one didn't come with the spare tire, so it doesn't come with a jack either. So if you don't order the spare, if you get a flat tire, you're going to have to get roadside assistance. But if you
give you at least a little can,
yeah,
fix a flat.
I don't think think they even give you that. I didn't see that.
Because
I feel like with the Hummer,
the can would have to be like a huge can, like the kind you use for sodas.
Yes.
When you the canister the CO2 canister for soda machines.
Because the standard tires on here are 35-inch all-terrain tires, and you can get optional 37s. So these are big tires. But if you want the spare, you get this rack that goes in the bed, and you put the spare up in there, which means you lose both that visibility and half of your bed space. Mm-hmm. Because it's taken up by this rack. And so I'll put in a link to the TFL truck guys, because they've got a Hummer and they've got the spare tire rack in the back there. So that's one of the many things that's absurd about this thing. It's also, while it's shorter than an F-150 Lightning, it's almost 7 inches wider. So this is actually the first
7
vehicle
inches.
I've ever had that I was actually really thankful for having Super Cruise, because at least on the highway, the Super Cruise will keep it centered within those lines, with whatever little margin you've got on either side of it, because it is so wide.
It's got to teach you where it needs to go. Like, okay, I guess this is where the middle
So
is.
big.
It's got the little guides though, right above it has the guides above the on the top of the
Does
fenders. Does it?
Yeah, but it's up so tall that it's not really very.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, never mind.
So I used the Super Cruise when I was driving on the highway. This thing, the visibility out of it is not great. And it's got the almost vertical, it's got a short greenhouse, almost vertical windshield. It's fairly far out in front of you. So when you're at a traffic light, you have to duck down to actually see the lights, because it's blocked. What else? For something that's so large, it's just crazy. It blows my mind.
Like, I don't know what to say about this. I have so many thoughts.
but it is ridiculously fast. And
it's insane, but it's really fast.
Yeah.
I drove the Hummer EV SUV this week, which I can give no drive impressions over, but I have driven also the truck. And the truck is an interesting proposition.
as I was driving this thing around, I was thinking about it, and I realized, I understand why GM did this. Before the original Hummer was killed.
Wait. You understand why GM did this?
Oh, why they revived Hummer as an EV?
Oh, okay.
When they had the old Hummers, they were seen as the symbol of, the anti-green, anti-environmental. They were vandalized by environmental activists and things like that. It was, the big middle finger to everybody that was concerned about the environment and climate change. And so when GM was launching, their new EV platform and Ultium, they said, let's bring back Hummer and make it electric, so that there's no emissions and no fuel consumption. Not that there's no energy consumption, because there's lots of that, but there's no fuel consumption.
Yeah.
And it'll be great. It'll be the symbol of GM's transformation into an all-electric automaker.
We'll take the craziest thing we had that sucked up the most amount of gas and make that the halo car for our EVs.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think what they should have done, instead of building this big giant monstrosity, is they should have gone back, back in 2008, before GM went through the bankruptcy and killed the Hummer brand. And at the 2008 Detroit Auto Show, they showed off a concept called the Hummer HX, which was kind of a Wrangler-sized Hummer. It had the Hummer styling, but it was the size of a Wrangler. That's what they should have built.
Oh, that would have done.
I think the reason why
they went too far. They went too far.
Well, I think the reason why they built this, because this thing was approved like late in 2019, right around the time that the Cybertruck was revealed.
Oh.
And I think GM decided, what, we got to have something to compete with the Cybertruck, and we got to get it out before the Cybertruck. And they did that.
Well, man,
does not necessarily mean
that's a low
that's
bar,
the thing you should
really,
do.
to me. Getting out before Cybertruck now is pretty much a low bar.
Right. They did it. They got it into production.
I mean, possibly there's vehicles that haven't been announced yet that will also be out before the Cybertruck.
Oh, almost certainly.
Oh, yeah.
But, so they got something, that's competitive with the Cybertruck, and they put it out there in the marketplace. But I think what would have been more interesting for GM, especially at this point in time, is instead of this ginormous super truck, they should have built something like the Wrangler / Bronco to compete with those vehicles.
That would have been really cool, actually.
Yeah.
Well,
and it would have been the first electric, real off-roader.
Yeah. When I went to the GM, to the design facility, what did I write this for? Oh, Ars Technica. It's on Ars Technica. Go look at it there. They showed us a series of vehicles. One of them was like the little truck that everyone's talked about. But the first vehicle they showed us, so it was under wraps, looked like a very small, it was underneath a blanket or a sheet or whatever you want to call it. A blankie. It had its own little blankie.
Silk.
Silk, but it was shaped like a Bronco. It was shaped like a little baby Bronco, and I was like, oh.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the
next
electric Hummer HX.
Oh, then they showed us another Hummer. Like, yeah, I also talked about that. They showed us a little Hummer truck. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
But at any rate, that's the kind of vehicle that GM should have built instead of this monstrosity, because this thing,
it's a lot.
Got
it's
1.1 miles per kilowatt hour. 1.1, and a Bolt does 4 miles per kilowatt hour.
1.1.
Yeah, 1.1.
But it does have some cool features. Having all those cameras around, you can switch the camera modes. I was driving, I was bombing down this snow-covered, back road, covered in 8 inches of snow, and turned on the underbody camera, so I could see the snow splattering up on the bottom of it, which was pretty cool. There's some interesting features on here, which of course is why it weighs over 9,000 pounds, because there's a lot of interesting features. But just as a whole, I just can't understand this vehicle. It's beyond me. But what else? Oh, one other thing about it, this is one of the new crop of vehicles that, and GM has talked about this, where they're using Unreal Engine to do the graphics on the infotainment screen and the instrument cluster. And what that does, it's a gaming engine. It allows the designers to have 3D graphics on the screen, that are rendered in real time. So unlike, older infotainment systems, all those animations when it's switching modes, those things are all pre-rendered and they're fixed, so there's a limited number of them that are preloaded in memory on the infotainment system. And when you're switching modes, it goes to those different modes.
It's a cutscene.
Yeah.
It's a cutscene. I call them cutscenes. They look like cutscenes. That's really what they look like.
Whereas, with Unreal Engine, it's rendered in real time, as you swipe around and do different things, and it looks really cool. But I'm not convinced it actually is useful or it makes anything better.
It's cool for you as the owner for like a week.
Yeah,
and it's cool for every time your friend gets in the car and you show it to him. Look at this.
But it slows stuff down. Like swiping through screens is slower. Yeah, because it's got to render all that stuff.
But it looks cool, Sam. It looks cool.
It is like this. Cool. Look what we can. Look at all the insane things we can do. Mm-hmm. All right, now we're gonna go out and make some real car. Now we're gonna make the Lyric. Now we're gonna make the
We'll come back to using Unreal Engine for an infotainment system a little later when we talk about the Mustang. But that's one thing. That's another thing that they had on here. Overall, this thing does what it's advertised to do, and does it pretty well.
It's ridiculous. What's it supposed to be? Ridiculous.
Yes, and it does that really, really well.
I love it. What's our goal here, guys? Build ridiculous. Mission completion.
The crab walk, the 4-wheel steering is great. That is really useful. On a big vehicle like that, being able to maneuver around in parking lots.
Like when you look at it from the outside, and I'm commenting on the truck because I just want to be clear. When you look at it on the outside, you think the car is broken. You're like, oh, that can't be good. Something has gone awry with that particular vehicle. And when you're inside, it makes me think about driving on the snow. Like, because you're like,
which is what I did.
Yeah, it feels like it does kind of feel like you're driving on snow sideways. Right? If you're like driving straight and you're just getting pushed.
I put it in crab walk mode and drove sideways down my street through the snow because it hadn't been plowed yet, and it was really cool. It was fun, And this, that night before when we had the snowstorm, there was a lot of the other branches that didn't break during the ice storm the previous week were all had come down, so there was several trees that were blocking the road, and the Hummer had no problem getting around that stuff. It was it just right through, so when you're in a situation like that, it's great for that. The Edition 1, which is of course all sold out, and there's other variants coming sometime this year. The Edition 1, at the time that this one, the Monroney was generated for it, which was sometime last year. It was before they raised the price. The vehicle price was actually the total price came to $110,295. You want to guess what the destination was?
Well, if we're doing it by weight,
$9 million.
I'm gonna say 1,300.
I'm gonna go $12.99.
It was actually $15.95, which surprised me. I expected it to be more because Stellantis charges $2,000 now for most of their big trucks and SUVs. And given how heavy this thing is, I figured that they would tack on an extra large destination charge, but they didn't. No options on this thing. Everything. On the Edition 1, everything. Almost everything is standard. Yeah. There's only a few options. There's things like the 37-inch wheels, the spare tires, but all the other stuff is there. It's got 3 motors with 1,000 horsepower, 1,200 foot-pounds of torque. I did take it to my EA station to charge it, and I was coming back from a lunch meeting in Dearborn, so I set the navigation to guide me to that EA station, and had the battery precondition come on, so it would warm up the battery by the time I got there. Got there, and 3 of the 6 chargers were in use. It's that station now has the brand new chargers, but they have 2 different versions of the 350 kilowatt chargers at EA now. When they're putting in these new ones, they've got ones that have dedicated 350 kilowatts each, and then they have ones that are balanced. So it's split between pairs of chargers.
So it's 175.
And so when I first plugged it in, I was only getting about 170, 175, and then somebody left. And then it eventually got up to 240 kilowatts. But when you've got 212 kilowatt hours of battery pack even at 240 kilowatts, it takes a while to charge that thing. It was saying it was going to be like 2 hours to go from 14% to full, or 2.5 hours. So I charged it up to about 60% there. And then went home and plugged it in and set it to finish charging overnight, so that it would be charged when the guys came to pick it up the next day. You absolutely need the 350 kilowatt charging, and if you're charging it at home, you would probably want to make the investment in getting a 19 kilowatt charger for this thing.
Oh my gosh!
Charger.
So you have to get
it depends how much you drive it. Yeah, that would be an 80 amp charger.
So you have to get an 80. It's safe to put an 80 amp thing into your house.
Otherwise, on a 9.6 kilowatt.
Wait, so you need a 100 amp because you want to be 20% higher.
Yeah, you need a 100 amp circuit.
So you need a 100 amp circuit. So double what I put in my house. We put in a 50 amp circuit for 40. So you'd have to put a 100 amp circuit in. Whew.
Now that assumes that you're driving it, using most of the charge.
All the time,
every day, which most people don't. Yeah. If you're driving 30, 40, 50 miles a day, a 9.6 kilowatt charger is going to be fine, and you'll get it topped up every night. And you get about 329 miles of range on a full charge under ideal conditions. It was cold, it was right around freezing, and we had lots of snow when I was driving it around. So I was only getting, I think it came out to about 250 miles or so, which is actually pretty good, because I had the heat on, and to keep it at a reasonable temperature. So it was quite good. But another thing to keep in mind, because this thing is so tall, it's quite tall. Did I mention it's tall? When you have 8 inches of snow on there, you almost need to get a ladder or a step stool to get up, and you want to have a really long snow brush, an ice scraper. Oh,
so they can scrape the windshield, because it's like 7 miles across.
For some reason, when they deliver, when they deliver the cars to us, around here, they always have a snow brush and an ice scraper in the car. But in this one, they didn't put one of those extra long ones. They just had a standard sized one,
like the ones like this big, a
little bit bigger than that. Probably about 24 inch.
You need the big, that has extra brushes attached to it. You gotta use all this. You gotta use all this like a fulcrum to
And when you got 8 inches of snow stacked up on the roof, and you don't want that falling off.
Yeah, it kills somebody.
Because I actually I figured, okay, I'm not going to clear off the roof. I can't reach that right now. So I started to go and I stopped, and the snow slid off the roof onto the hood. And so then I had to get out and brush it off the hood again.
So what you have to do is you have to get in the car, warm it up so that the roof gets warm, and then you have to use watts to freedom so it all just goes in the bed of the truck.
There you go. Watts to freedom right out of your driveway.
Right.
1,000 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds out of your driveway.
But you only need to do it for like 1 second. You just need to do it so like half a block.
Yeah.
You call your neighbors, tell them to warn your neighbors, keep the children inside, lock the doors.
All right. So that's the Hummer EV pickup, which I would never buy something like this. I see this thing as something that those who might feel a little bit inadequate in some respects would want this to reinforce their self-esteem.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Sam.
It is,
and it only has 1,200 pounds of payload. And
Oh.
7,500 pounds of towing because it's so heavy.
You can still pick up. You can still pick up your mulch. That's all you really.
Yeah, you can do that.
Still pick up mulch.
It does have the multi-flex tailgate, so it's a little easier to step up into it. So that helps.
How much?
And you can lower the air springs down, so it's not quite so ridiculously high.
So it's 1,200 pounds of payload.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Just get a Maverick. It does 1,500 pounds.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna
That's
try
the
and get a
answer
picture
all the time. There's two answers now. It's Miata or Maverick. That's it.
I was gonna try and get a picture with my neighbor's Maverick. They have a base, $20,000 base XL hybrid Maverick, and put that next to the Hummer and say, which one of these pickup trucks has more payload capacity? And it's actually the Maverick.
It's actually
1,500 pounds.
Little old Maverick. It's also the Maverick's more efficient too. Someone did a whole thing where it's more efficient. Yeah.
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 All right. Enough of my complaining about the Hummer.
I don't think they're complaints. I think this is what the truck is.
Valid. Yeah.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
If you are cool with all that, there you go. It's there.
It'll be fine.
I'd rather you buy like an electric Hummer than like a gas Hummer that gets like 3 miles to the gallon.
3, I think you're being generous, isn't it?
I'm trying to be a nice
0.3 maybe. 0.3 miles per gallon.
There's when you factor in the unused part of the battery, because there's some buffer that's not used. This thing has about 4 times as much battery as a Bolt. So you could really? For one of these you could build 4 Bolts.
But is the Bolt even close to as fun as a GMC Hummer pickup?
Oh, there you go.
You guys need to pause. It's not.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, the Hummer is ridiculous in so many ways. You drive and you're like, I would never own this, but this is really fun to drive.
This is so cool. Is this practical?
And it actually has surprisingly comfortable ride quality. Yeah, because of the air springs and everything. It's actually pretty decent. And I didn't get any flats from hitting potholes. So
yeah, that's true. Because it's bigger
than 35-inch tires. You can hit potholes and not worry about blowing them out.
You probably doubled the size of each pothole as you hit it, but you were fine.
Likely.
Double the size of it.
Every pothole you hit, you destroyed a little bit more.
Kablam.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about the Cybertruck. Since that's not here yet.
Cybertruck.
So Adam Jonas is an analyst with Morgan Stanley. He's a financial analyst, and he's always been one of the cheerleaders for Tesla. He's been one of those Wall Street guys that has come up with models for why Tesla should be valued at upwards of $1 trillion. And a lot of his model is based on the idea that Tesla is going to generate these enormous revenues from its robotaxi business, which they have yet to do. And this week he put out a research note to Morgan Stanley clients, basically saying that the Cybertruck is more likely to be what he called a cult car than a real high volume vehicle. There's basically, it's not going to be competing with the F-150 or Silverado or Ram.
No.
He expects that the volumes, even though Tesla's claiming they've got more than 1 million reservations for this thing, he expects the volumes are going to be closer to about 50,000 units a year at most.
Yeah, it's not a.
It's not. I don't think anybody ever really thought it was. I mean, did anybody really think this was going to be
Tesla did.
Tesla did, and a lot of Tesla fanboys did.
Tesla, Elon Musk at the thing was pretty much like, this is going to like be, and you're just like, I think that to me, Tesla, the concern about the F-150 they should have been concerned about Rivian. Because that's just the same sort of like, I want this like cool sort of venture truck. It's not from, an established player. Rivian is real. The R1T is really the Cybertruck's main competitor as far as I'm concerned. And it's out.
I mean, actually, I think the real competition for Rivian, for the R1T is actually the Jeep Gladiator. Because it's actually
size.
It's almost exactly the same size as a Gladiator. It's like within an inch or so in all dimensions for a Gladiator, and it's got that kind of off-road capability that you get with a Gladiator. And for the R1S, for the SUV, it's going to be something more like a Grand Cherokee or a Range Rover. Those are going to be your competition, at the premium end of those vehicles. That's the competition there. I mean, the closest thing that the Cybertruck's going to have to competition, I think, is that Hummer.
Yeah. Well, you can throw things over the side. I wrote a big thing about how the Cybertruck isn't really for truck people.
Oh, definitely not.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Right when it came out, I'm like 1 million years ago. I'm like, first of all, you can't throw things over the side. There's like all these things. It's just like an incredibly crazy thing, which I'm like, and at the time I was like, you know what, crazy, fun, weird things. The more people make them, the happier I am. It's just I don't know how they're gonna build it still. It's just the whole thing is just like, and they should just be happy with 50,000, especially because how difficult it's going to be able to build this thing at scale.
Yeah. Well, and there was some photos that came out this week. Franz van Holtzhausen, the head of design at Tesla, posted a couple of pictures with the him standing next to the Cybertruck prototype, and The Verge did a story on this because they noticed this one's got got a windshield wiper on it, and you can see, where it's, because this thing's obviously been driving around in the dirt, and so the windshield's all dirty, but you can see where the swept area of the windshield wiper is. And even with this enormous wiper blade, it's like a 3.5 foot long wiper blade, you can see that nearly a quarter of the windshield is not swept at all by the wiper blade.
Yeah, the top right side by the passenger.
It's I've talked to a lot of former Tesla employees, and a lot of them are like, Elon doesn't know what he's talking about with cars. He's just not a car guy. He just has like these crazy ideas. And if you have the team that can pull off like most of the ideas and sort of like pretend the other ones he didn't tell you, you could do a good job. But I think the Cybertruck was like, no, you have to do all these things. And they were just like, okay, all right.
We'll figure something out.
It's a niche car. I don't know. I think there's people talking about like, oh, it's got air suspension. You can jump it. I'm like, no, you can't. Look at the travel. The travel thing. You're gonna like shove those wheels right into those fenders, and people are gonna hurt themselves. I think if you want to buy a Cybertruck, cool, good for you. If you want to sell a Cybertruck, cool, good for you. But I think you need to be realistic with its capabilities. That's
Yeah, and Jonas in his note, in his research note, is a quote here from it. He says, "We regularly speak with clients who believe Tesla may sell hundreds of thousands of Cybertrucks annually," said Jonas after visiting Tesla's Texas factory, where the pickup will go into production later this year. "We think it will more likely be an enthusiast cult car with far more limited volume, closer to 50,000 units." Because when you consider a lot of trucks, a lot of full-size pickup trucks are sold to commercial users, and they do stuff with them. They need to, they put racks in there for their tools and their equipment, and that's stuff that's not going to fit in this thing.
Yeah, this is definitely not a business truck in any sense of the word.
No, not at all.
Maybe the foreman gets one. He doesn't actually use it to like haul anything, or maybe the boss gets one. But he's not. This person is definitely not going to buy them for the fleet. They're going to get a bunch of F-150s. They're going to get a bunch of Silverados. They're going to get a bunch of Tacomas. They're not buying. Yeah, or Mavericks. I've been seeing a lot of Maverick fleet trucks recently. But yeah, it's the Cybertruck. It's
just let it go. It's the Cybertruck. It is what it is, right?
You're not going to sell a lot of them. A lot of people got very excited, and then as time gone, and the fact that it's taken so long means a lot of people have had a chance to sort of sit and think about what they're buying, and be like, you know what, I'm going to get this instead, or I'm going to get, you know what, this isn't really going to work for me, and then there's people who they want a crazy looking car, and there you go. Get the crazy. If you want to be the crazy person with the crazy car on your block, get the Cybertruck, or the Hummer,
or the Hummer. Either one. Yeah,
get the Hummer. Get the Cybertruck. Be the crazy person. Be the crazy you want to see in the world.
Well, let's stick with Tesla for a couple more things here.
Okay.
There was another crash recently in the Bay Area with a Tesla that ran into a stationary fire truck. Most of the I think there's been like 14 or 15 previous crashes of Teslas running into stationary emergency vehicles while running on autopilot or FSD that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is investigating. This is the first one where somebody has actually died, and several of the firefighters were actually injured as well, along with the passenger in the vehicle. And so I just want to remind everybody that, there are no vehicles that you can buy today from any manufacturer, including Tesla, that are capable of driving without your supervision. So, keep your eyes on the road, hands on the wheel, in most cases, and be ready to take control if necessary. If you see an emergency vehicle, slow down, pull over, to the next lane, give them some extra room, because if there's an emergency vehicle out there, there's probably, crews out there doing something.
Yeah. Turn off your ADAS system. If you're coming up to an accident,
tap the brake pedal, slow down,
tap the brake, take over everything.
Give them some room. It doesn't matter what you're driving. Just, do that.
Right. Yeah. Always, like, regardless of whether you're in it, just always pay attention, slow down, and do the right thing there.
This is all the crazy, weird edge case things. They're like, oh, like cars can drive themselves. No, they can't, because there's all the edge cases, and these edge cases happen all the time.
You have many of them.
You have a fire truck that's parked across 3 lanes, and you have people out. You have firefighters, you have paramedics, you have police, and they're out. And some of them are wearing black because they're police, and some of them are wearing bright orange because they're they're firefighters. And some of them are wearing this, and there's flares and there's debris everywhere. Like, that's. You can sit there and try to simulate that all the time, but every time it's going to be completely different and completely weird.
Yep.
And this is why it's so incredibly hard to make a car that can drive itself.
Yep.
That's why they still need us as puny humans.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're still in control.
So, would you like to be able to rent a 2 or 3 bedroom home for $800 a month?
Depends on the home.
Well,
I've seen some homes that are.
I mean, let's assume that it's not roach infested or rat infested, and it's clean and everything works. Basic 2 or 3 bedroom house. Would you be interested in getting something like that for $800 a month?
I mean, I guess I would.
So
it's a trick.
I feel like, where is this? It's like, okay, you're in the worst possible neighborhood.
It's in Bastrop, Texas, which is near Austin.
Okay.
About 35 miles from Austin.
Okay, that would be also okay.
But it's owned by Elon Musk.
And it's housing. It's worker housing.
Yeah, so it's worker housing.
It's like what the guys used to do with like at Hershey in those places. Remember Hershey had this huge community of housing that it had for all of its people at Hershey Park back in the day.
Yeah, or was it like the company store type of thing for coal miners?
The company store.
It's a company
exactly.
town.
All of that.
The company town.
So, because Boring Company and SpaceX and Tesla are all in Texas now. Musk wants to build a company town in Bastrop County, and basically control it. And apparently the median rents in the area are $2,200 a month, but they're going to rent out these houses to employees for $800 a month. And it's only a 30-minute drive from the Tesla the Tesla factory near Austin. So that's nice. They've apparently bought up 3,500 acres of land in the area over the last couple of years. But if you either get fired or laid off or you quit your job, you have 30 days to get out of the house.
Yeah, that's
30 days to relocate if you change jobs.
It's tough.
That's not ideal.
No,
it's Facebook floated something like this. I don't know, 5-6 years ago about having.
Did they really?
Yeah, like company housing sort of thing, and it was the same thing. We're like, oh, this sounds good because if you can get below market, I mean, $800, and that helps the surrounding area, so you're not increasing rent because you opened up a factory nearby. You're like, oh, that sounds great, until you realize that, oh, I am beholden to my boss. Not only am I beholden to this company for my income, I'm beholden to them for where I live. So if I lose, like if you get laid off or you get fired or you just like, oh, you have to like, okay, now what?
I guess if you figured it out, like if you're looking for a new job, you could at least plan it and be like, okay, we got to get a new apartment or something. And if you're saving a chunk of change, $800 a month is cheap. Okay, let's look at the plus side. Super, super cheap. So if you can figure out how to manage, if I got laid off tomorrow or fired tomorrow, I have 30 days to find a new place. Theoretically, Robbie, you've tucked away a chunk of change because you haven't been paying market rates all this time.
Yeah, that extra $1,200 to $1,400.
Right? So if you did that for a year, you've just saved $12,000 plus that you've got in the bank. That could be a great way to
hopefully
you could like buy a house or something. If the longer you did it, the more money you have tucked away. If you just put what you would have put to rent into a little savings account, you just tuck away all your money.
Or you live in constant fear.
I mean, it's all a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough Tesla and Elon stuff. The Nissan Ariya, which Robbie and I are going to be driving on Monday.
Monday.
I go out there wait, you're driving it on Monday? When do you fly out?
I'm flying out tomorrow.
Oh, see you guys there.
Oh, you're going to be there too?
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not Ariya. I lied. I'm Hornet. Never mind.
Okay.
Car company. I'm Ariya right after, I think.
We're going to
been a busy month.
Yeah, it's confusing.
I'm very confused.
Anyway, Nissan, they actually started selling the front wheel drive Ariya last fall, but and this is their second major EV release. They were kind of like first to market with the Leaf, with a relatively mainstream EV in late 2010, and then they haven't really released anything else. They've had some low volume production of a few things like an electric version of the NV200 van, but this is their first real mainstream vehicle since the original Leaf. But they've had a hard time actually building these things and getting them to customers for a variety of reasons, including chip shortages. They've been having problems with a new production line, a new production facility, and all kinds of issues. You two have both driven the front wheel drive Ariya before, right?
Yes. Yeah, I drove it in Portugal. Yeah, that sounds right.
I drove it in Tennessee during a tornado warning. We're like, maybe we should go inside now.
Well, that's weird because when I was in Portugal, it rained the entire time, and we're going to drive it starting tomorrow. And guess what? It's raining.
Weather? Oh my god!
It's crazy rainy here. Like there's flooding. There's people losing their homes. It's horrible.
So is what you're saying is that the Ariya is a harbinger of the apocalypse? Is that what we're going
It certainly seems that way.
It's so nice.
Weather
inside.
Apocalypse and a production apocalypse.
You get inside and you're like, oh, this is such a nice car. Wow, good job, Nissan. Why can't they catch a break?
Yeah, apparently production's running at least a third below schedule, which is not good.
Geez.
When you're trying to, they want to get this thing out there and sell as many of these things as they can. But they're having a lot of issues. So hopefully they'll get that sorted out.
Yikes.
All right. Ultra Cruise, GM's next generation hands-free driving system. They announced it in 2021.
That sounds right.
Yeah, 2021.
Ultra
And
Cruise.
they've started to trickle out some more details on it. This week, they released some information about the sensor suite. And we already knew that Ultra Cruise was going to have a LiDAR sensor, which is not currently on Super Cruise, because Ultra Cruise is going to be capable of doing the hands-free driving thing on urban and suburban streets, and go point to point, kind of like Tesla's Navigate on Autopilot. It's still going to be geofenced, but it's going to have like 2 million miles of roads to start with, and eventually double that. But the sensor suite on this thing is pretty impressive. They've got a LiDAR sensor, and this is the first. There's a few cars out there with LiDAR, like the Lucid Air, Mercedes S-Class and EQS with Drive Pilot. None of, and of course there's the Volvo EX90 that's coming later this year with the Luminar LiDAR, which is mounted on top of the roof, above the windshield. And there's several cars in China that have similar type of mounting for the LiDAR up on the roof. But the Cadillac Celestiq and the other cars that will follow shortly after with Ultra Cruise will be the first cars that have a LiDAR sensor mounted behind the windshield. So you don't even see it.
Wow.
Okay.
And one of the challenges with that, I spoke with the CEO of Septon, which is the LiDAR supplier, and also Jason Dittman, who's the chief engineer for Ultra Cruise, earlier this week. And one of the challenges, windshields are usually coated with infrared filtering to keep the solar load, keep the heat buildup down. But
So
of
you get
course,
sunburn.
the lasers used by LiDAR are, they're infrared light. And so what they had to do was leave a section of the windshield, the top center section of the windshield, with a different coating, with no infrared coating on there, so that it didn't filter out the laser, so it could actually see, so it could see through the windshield. And then because the windshield is also angled back at a pretty steep angle, Septon had to come up with some cool things in their software to filter out the photons that are being reflected back off the windshield, and only get the stuff that's going out and coming back.
Wow.
So some interesting challenges they had to deal with, but they say they've got them solved. It's also got 7 8-megapixel cameras, and for reference, most of the cameras that you find on cars today for ADAS are 1.2 megapixels. So they're pretty low resolution cameras. And that's what Tesla has, is 1.2 megapixel cameras for autopilot and FSD. GM's using 7 8-megapixel cameras. And they've got 7 radar sensors. There's 4 short range sensor radars on the corners, and then 3 long range high resolution imaging radar sensors, 1 in the front and then 2 on the back, to help detect what's going on around the car. So a lot of sensing capability, and that's going to mean a lot of computing to process all that data.
I always get a little upset whenever I realize how low the megapixels are on car cameras. I'm like, why is my phone so much nicer? My phone, which costs, I don't know, $1,000, I guess now is the going rate for a fancy phone.
Yeah, that's about right.
$40,000 car, like, yeah, we got some 1.2, some 2 megabytes. Like, come on.
Do better.
I know it's more data, blah blah blah. It's more money, but come on. That's your
new thing. Come on, people.
Come on.
So we'll finally get a chance to try out Ultra Cruise later this year. Hopefully, when the Celestiq comes out, it'll be the first one to have that.
Yay!
All right, and then the final item for this week is the infotainment system on the 2024 Mustang. I had a chance to go play with it in a studio earlier this week, and recorded some video. But like the Hummer and like Rivian and some other vehicles that are coming out, this has got the graphics on the screen, and this is probably the most substantial change to the new Mustang. The design, the new exterior design is kind of evolutionary, but the new infotainment system with these two big screens all under one sheet of glass, 13-inch center touch screen, 12-inch instrument cluster display. This is a pretty fundamental change for the way Mustang interiors look, and they've got some pretty cool graphics on there using Unreal Engine. But as I was playing around with it, I'm thinking, if you're actually driving this car, which is
it's a Mustang,
what you're supposed to do with a Mustang, do I really want all of this stuff? It's like, keep it simpler.
It is a lot of stuff, but everyone likes, it's the thing, like the Unreal Engine thing. It's graphics. Yeah, I mean,
you can.
It's
you can
of
go
the
around,
future.
You can swipe on the center screen, and rotate the car around, and see the different things, as you change the lights and other features that show up on there. It looks kind of cool, but it seems like a lot of effort that's not actually going to be very useful.
It's a Mustang. You're just driving a Mustang. That's where you.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not the thing that sells you on a Mustang. Wait, so my friend had a 67 Mustang. And when you put the high beams on, this is back when you had to put the little foot. Remember the little foot
click? The little button on the floor.
Click.
Click. The Mustang instead of a high beam, it was a picture of the horse, the prancing, the horse, not the prance. Anyway, and it would light up.
Horse is a Ferrari.
Yeah, that's why I was like, no, that's wrong. Galloping horse. It would light up like red, and I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. And there's probably some sort of law that says they have to use, the regular high beam thing. But I remember seeing that, and I really wanted to change the high beam indicator in my Honda to a little H because of that. So anyway, if they bring that back, then it's all worth it to me.
Then it'll be worth it.
One little thing. If I have the high beam, which you rarely use when you don't use it, you shouldn't be using it on the highway. You definitely should not be using it around town. But when you're in the middle of nowhere, it's kind of cool.
Well, I was talking to the head of interior design, or the HMI stuff for this. And this basically, the system that's in here is the same Sync 4 system that's been on other Ford and Lincoln cars for the last 2-3 years. But it's a new skin on it, but functionally it's the same system that they've had for a while now. And it's also the same hardware, the same chip that's powering it. They wouldn't say what the chip is that's powering the Sync 4 system.
It's a secret.
But, there's you're talking about a lot more graphics processing capability, and at least in the half hour or so I had to play around with this, it didn't seem to lag at all. But I got a feeling that might turn out to be a problem when they get to production. We'll see, because not everything was working in this pre-production software.
Yeah, and also it's a Mustang. Figure out where you want to put this.
Yeah. Make a decision, boys.
Just a Mustang is just I want to drive fast in a Mustang.
Yeah,
I want to feel the I want a manual transmission, and but now I can look at a rotating car. All right, fine.
But you can switch the cluster to show you Fox body style gauge.
Oh yeah, I saw the Fox body thing. I'm like, all right, that's cool.
And when you turn on the headlights, it switches from white to green.
I mean, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, if he does that, then that's fine.
Just like my 91 5-liter LX did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need Unreal Engine though for that.
No.
You could if you wanted to.
Yeah, this is all crazy, but there's Fox body. All right, cool, fine.
Was there anything else that you wanted to share, Robbie, about your supercharger experience with the BMW?
Let me see. It was really weird just how easy it was. I got there and I had the app, and the app said that I had Apple Pay set up, but it didn't work with Apple Pay, so I had to put a credit card in. That was the biggest pain. Was I had to put a credit card in. Hold on. So I went and did that, but because there's no screen or anything on the Tesla Superchargers stations, it's just a little a little weird tower thing, and then a cable, and it plugs into your car, and that's it. You can do everything with the app. And I unlocked it and unlocked like it was supposed to. I plugged it in and it just started charging. And I went and looked.
Good.
There was no issues. I didn't have to unplug it and plug it in. I didn't have to do anything weird. And of course, this is all anecdotal because I could show up. I've gone to Electrify America stations where I plugged it in and it worked perfectly.
Right.
And then I've gone the next day and I plug it in. It's giving me 8 kilowatts after I unplugged it and plugged it in twice. So they might have issues like everyone else, but for someone doing it the first time, it was just really easy. The problem is that Tesla hasn't made the cables long enough. They went through and they created this whole like very clever like adapter system where the adapter comes off with
the magic dock. Yeah,
the magic dock, and it's very clever and it works really nice. They went through and they did that, but the cable is still like 3 feet long. So I had to park in the wrong parking spot because Tesla has their charger port is on the rear left. Well, the BMW it was on the rear right. So I had to park in the wrong spot in order to charge this vehicle, which meant I was taking up 2 Tesla charging spots in order to charge a BMW. Exactly, which is a bad scene. Fortunately, if that charging network or that charging station had been like busy,
people would have thrown eggs at you.
Yeah, I would have had to like have a conversation with people like, hey, and I would have charged for only a few minutes just for the sake of the video. And I would have said, hey, I only charge for a few minutes because I am being a jerk taking up 2 spaces. I'm icing out Tesla people with an EV because Tesla didn't make the cable long enough. And so it
stinks.
But you got 130 kilowatts with it?
Yeah, I was getting like 130 and it was consistent. It was like 130 to like 126, I think, 125. Wow. So it was pretty consistent the entire time it was charging. I think I charged up to 70%. I have to look at the video. I didn't charge all the way. I got enough charge. I'm like, okay, well, I'm good enough to go home. I saw a dog. I'm ready to leave. And so it's interesting that they really know how to build a charging network. Of course, again, it's all anecdotal. I mean, I could have shown up with a Lucid and it might not have worked, or I could have shown up with a Chevy Bolt and it might not have worked. I could have shown up with, because now they have to deal with the software for all these different vehicles working with their software. And so, but they have a huge lead over Electrify America in like making this work, which is good for them. Whether or not they can become like a real player in this space is really up to them because they have to fix the cables and they have to have it at more than 8 charging superchargers in the United States. It's only at 8 in the whole.
Well, I think it's a little more. I think it's about 20 now. There's about a dozen.
I appreciate your need to be precise, Sam, but it's like 820. Well, forget it. His whole point is invalid.
So it's like, they need it. They have to. It has. And then the fact that it wasn't in any of the Bay Area charging networks, which they're all over the place up here at this point, because there's a ton of Teslas in the Bay Area. It's Tesla land, but they don't have them here. They don't have any here. And I can sort of see why they want to do that because, like I said in the video, if they opened one up near San Francisco, it would be just full of people with just random EVs trying it out because they want to see like, oh, does this actually work? So you get there with your Tesla and there's a Mach-E and there's a Bolt and there's a Rivian and there's a Mercedes and there's a Kia and now there's a Hyundai and you're just like, well, I just want to charge my Tesla. And of course you could drive like 10 miles and find another one, but they're rolling it out slowly, but at least they're rolling it out. And if it's
better than nothing, I guess.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. And if they continue to roll it out at a nice pace, and again, they fix the cable situation, which means rollout's going to be probably longer than people anticipate. It's a system that's going to put and if it works the way I experienced it, it's going to put EA, EVgo, ChargePoint. It's going to put them on notice that they need to like sort of step up and make sure that their system works. And that's the whole thing. If I'm driving along and I know this charging network's going to work, and this one might work, I'm going to go to the one that will work. Also, it's more expensive than everywhere else. But again, are you happy to pay 10-15 cents more per kilowatt hour?
Hey, if it works.
Right? If it works, Yahoo.
And I think people might. I think there's more than a few people, especially BMW and Mercedes-Benz drivers. They don't care. They just want it to work.
Is that kind of what everybody just wants? You just want it to work? That's really just, I just want to charge when I need to charge without having to think about it.
Exactly. You just want to plug in and get electricity and get on with your trip or wherever. Go to Target or whatever you do in your life.
Go to Target.
I just assume everyone just goes to Target.
want to go to Target. Because everybody does go to Target. That's not a wrong assumption.
Unless you're going, electrify America, then you have to go to Walmart.
And then Walmart. Yeah. And their wonky little... they're hard to pull into. They're always like behind trash dumpsters or it's like weird angles. It's like if you back up too far, you plummet off a cliff. Like they're weirdly positioned. It's like here.
Or they're like that 45-degree angle one where it's like, what? How do I park?
They're like, and you're like, how am I? And then there's like post protecting things. You're like, so I have 2 inches of wiggle room to navigate my car into this spot and line up with the charger.
Well, on the other hand, one thing I noticed when I was watching your video, Robbie, is that the casing on that charger that you were charging from was cracked. Somebody had obviously.
Oh yeah, I was looking at it. I was looking at it, and I was like kind of shaking it. I'm like, well, it's still working. I'm like, all right. Yeah, it's like up above. There's like a little hole. I was like looking at it. I'm like, huh.
Sparks are shooting out of there. I guess we're okay.
It's just plastic. It's fine.
Yeah. Everything's good. It's all good.
But yeah, no, I think it's if they can get it together, then it's going to be a major player. But if they're like, oh, here's 20 of them, and then nothing comes of it, and it's just these like 20 or maybe they get up to 50, then it's it's the Cybertruck of charging. It's niche.
It's niche, yeah.
All right. Well, we've got only one listener comment this week, and it fits with this conversation. It's from Jeff D on the Discord. I have a comment about something that talked about in a recent episode. Nicole and Eileen also talked about it. EV charging in the cold. People think that they won't charge in the cold because of a news piece that was everywhere not too long ago about the guy, I think in DC or maybe Philly, that got stranded on Christmas Eve because his Tesla wouldn't charge in the cold after being plugged in for hours. To be fair, extreme cold below 0 Fahrenheit does make it difficult. And he's got a reference to Out of Spec Motoring's test of charging in Colorado in January when it was minus 20.
Yeah.
Taking the wife out for birthday dinner tonight, so won't be able to listen live. Thanks.
Happy birthday, Jeff's wife.
Yeah, happy birthday. Yeah, I mean, I've done cold charging. I assume you have too, Nicole.
Yeah, it's the thing is like people thought that like you can't do it, and it's like it's not as efficient. It doesn't charge. Yeah. And I guess there's some guy that had a problem with his Tesla, and if it's like 20 below, well, that's how often do we have that? How many areas of the country have that for anything other than the rare we're having a blizzard situation? It's not common. So cold does throttle it back, and I got some emails and some direct messages from people who lived in like Canada and places that actually were addressing what he was addressing, after we talked about it. And it's the same thing. Like, yeah, it can impact how quickly I charge and how much of a range I get. But nobody ever said like, no, you can't. It doesn't work. It's decided not today. It's always just, you're not going to get the range that you would get. Things don't function quite the way you would at premium, like the perfect functioning that you get when all the conditions are perfect, but you can still charge. So I don't know what happened to the guy in DC or maybe Philly who got stranded.
Was this charging box outside?
I don't know.
I think this was actually, I think it was actually at a Tesla charger.
Charging stations, I went to the charging station, it was like a nice day and I only got 8 kilowatts.
Yeah, right? See, it's like, it could have been, actually, that's true. It could have had nothing to do with the cold if he was at a public charger.
It just been broken.
Batteries, when batteries are cold, they will not charge as fast. They won't accept to charge as fast. And conversely, they also don't provide as much power. They don't release energy as fast. That's just a fact of the way batteries work. Mm-hmm. Once the battery warms up, and this is why, more and more vehicles have battery preconditioning built into them, like the Hummer had, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6 and Genesis GV60 have this, where in the navigation, when you put the a DC charger in as the destination in your navigation, it will turn on preconditioning. It'll actually warm up your battery and Teslas do this as well. I think they do. To warm up the battery so that it's closer to its optimal temperature when you get to the charging station. And then you can plug in and it'll charge faster. But, when I was charging the Ioniq 5 back around Christmas time, when it was like 10, 15 degrees out, I used the preconditioning, and it charged at about 160 kilowatts, which was not bad. And, again, that was, there was a couple of other people at the charging station at the same time. So, it will charge slower when it's cold. That's just the way, unfortunately, electricity and chargers work.
Right.
But once they warm up, it should get better. Unless you're charging at an EA station, in which case it may just stay slow all the time.
Joel Fetter over at Green Car Reports did a piece about about this essentially.
Yeah, and I haven't had a chance to read that yet. I think it was just published today.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things was that the actual the home chargers, if you have those outside, like some of them are rated like I think the Rivian is like it's rated for negative 22 degrees. The Hummer EV home wall charger is negative 22 degrees. And some of them are just rated for negative 22. So if you're at negative 25, like negative 40, I lived in Kansas City for a while, it was negative 45 for like a month. It was just dumb. But it's essentially like if you have that charger, that home charging like box, that home charging station box outside, it's not rated to be out that cold. And so if you live in a place where it gets really, really cold, maybe you have to leave that in the garage and then just run the cable out. Or if you park
as long as you have a long enough cable.
Yeah, as long as you have a long enough cable. So there are instances where like just the hardware, the home hardware built to charge your vehicle, if you get under like negative 30 degrees, which again, stupid, dumb, insane. It was just so cold all the time.
Well, and Joel lives in Minnesota, and it was minus 20 when he had the lightning.
Yeah. But I think there's a certain amount of like buyer beware. If you do live in one of those places, or okay, I live somewhere where a huge chunk of the year it's going to be absolutely frigid cold. When you're buying an EV, look into pay attention to what you're buying and look at the specifications of your specific charger. And if your charger's typically not going to handle the kind of weather that you're going to see a good chunk of the year, if it really just literally will not function, then you need to think about, can I put it somehow in an enclosed space? Can I do something? Can I put it in my garage or do something to keep it not quite so cold? And that's something, that's real. But like public chargers, the Tesla ones that are out there and the EA ones, the cold shouldn't be the deciding factor. It should just be whether the damn thing works or not. Not it's not working today because it's cold. Just is it working today? Period. The end. And it's a balmy 60 degrees. And can I get it to work?
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of the old like my friends who lived in Utah, or they had car and their diesel. They had to have like I'm like, why is there a plug coming out of your Volkswagen Golf? And they're like, because it'll free. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
Like, oh, you have to plug it in so you can keep the engine warm so you can start it up. I'm like,
right. I mean, when back in the early 90s when I was in doing cold weather testing when I was working for Kelsey Hayes in northern Minnesota. In International Falls, when it was 40 below zero, we had diesel trucks, and if you didn't plug those things in, basically the diesel fuel turns into jello,
right,
at 40 below zero. So you do have to have a heater in there, and or have something in there to keep the fuel as well as the oil warm enough that it'll actually flow as a liquid.
Mm-hmm.
But just as a quick spoiler from Joel's story, and I'll have the link to the whole thing in the show notes. But it says, I'll get back to what happened with the charger on a cold morning. But if the video headlines screaming in all caps on the internet are to be believed, electric trucks don't work in the cold at all because they lose all their range. After a week of extreme cold weather testing of the F-150 Lightning, I'm here to tell you that's some grade A clickbait.
Yep, exactly. He is right. He's 100% right.
No, yeah, I mean,
cars just breaking down. It was like negative, and just cars would be just broken down alongside the road. And I'm like, what is happening? Because I had my little Honda Civic.
Stopped. Yeah, it would just be like cars
like
everywhere.
Just regular cars, like 1997, and I'm just driving around. I'm like, why are these cars? And I would get to work, and I'm like, why are all these cars just sitting alongside the road? They're like, it's so cold, the cars just stopped working. I'm like, no. Really? Because I'd never lived in an area where it had gotten that cold. They're like, yeah, the cars just stop. I'm like, well, I haven't done anything to my little Honda Civic. And they're like, yeah, well, you got a Honda Civic. So
Yeah, cold isn't great for anything. Extreme cold will mess everything up. I just hate the idea that
except for
like,
popsicles.
Except for popsicles, they're really good for popsicles. But it's just,
But you really want a popsicle when it's 40 below zero?
Well,
I'm just saying it's good for popsicles. I'm not saying it's good to eat them.
I might have gone to our local ice cream shop during a blizzard because I had a craving for Oreo ice cream and they were open. They were open. That's New England for you. Blizzard, snow, and it's like, hey, Hayward's is open. Let's go get an ice cream.
All right. That's it for this week. I do have that I will add on to the end here an interview I did in at the Chicago Auto Show with Ted Creeder from Nissan. He's I think marketing manager for EVs at Nissan, and so I will put that on right here after we say goodbye and see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
So Ted, what is your title?
So, Senior Manager, EV Marketing and Sales, responsible for Ariya and Leaf.
Nissan has just recently launched the Ariya, your second EV for the North American market. Let's start off with that. How's that going so far? I mean, it's pretty limited sales so far, but how's that going to launch?
So it's going well so far. We started sales for the front-wheel drive trims in December. And as you probably are aware, we did have a reservation program, which was well received. We saw a lot of demand for that, and we're happy to be delivering those first cars to those reservationists as we build up and ramp up production. The E-Force all-wheel drive models will go on sale in early 2023, so we're getting close to that as well.
And what's been the reaction of customers so far to the Ariya? It's obviously quite a bit different from the Leaf. In a lot of ways, obviously a different form factor, but technologically it's significantly more advanced than the Leaf was. So what's been the overall response so far to it?
So exactly. So with Leaf, we did offer a wide range of technology. We've continued to build on that with the Ariya. It's in that mid-size CUV segment, so you right in the heart of the segment in terms of size. Very well received for our customers, both those who were able to test drive it. Some of our events that we did around the country, as well as those first sales. Customers really hit on those key design elements that our designers and engineers were focused on. From an exterior point of view, it's that timeless Japanese futurism. Just keen attention to detail. So you see the ambient lighting when you're inside the car, lighting that gives a warm and smooth feeling. And then you get the space as well. So with that battery underneath, we have a flat floor. It's wide open for plenty of legroom in the front and the rear. We've pushed the HVAC instruments up front for even additional legroom and space, and then we have that power center console to really allow you to spread out. Gives you that living room feel in those zero gravity seats.
So far, you've got just the front wheel drive ones in market. You're going to have the all wheel drive dual motor versions in the next couple of months, I guess. I think I'm going to be driving it next month, in fact, in Sonoma. Looking forward to that. What do you see as the probable mix between those two, between front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive?
So we're going to see something close to a 50-50 mix, which we see on many other cars. At this first model year 23, we've obviously started sales with the front-wheel drive, so the front-wheel drive gets a bit of a head start. But then as we ramp up the E-Force all-wheel drive production, we anticipate great demand for both drivetrains.
And this one, obviously, you mentioned earlier, Leaf has introduced a number of new technologies for Nissan to the U.S. market. I think it was either the first or one of the first models to offer ProPilot Assist. Mm-hmm. This time around, you've got ProPilot version 2.
Correct.
Talk about that a little bit, and what vehicles is that going to be available on the sort of trim levels and the technology that you're offering there?
Yes, so great question. So with ProPilot Assist, that was well received on the Leaf. We've built on a long history of that, both from understanding customer demands. With ProPilot Assist 2.0, we get into that hands-off driving mode. So as customers continue to experience it, we've seen great reception for it. So once customers get behind the wheel, we've we talked about keen attention to detail, so we've done that inside the car as well. So when you get in that ProPilot Assist 2.0 mode, it stair-steps its way up to that hands-free mode. So you start in white mode, which is just a regular cruise control. Then you go into green mode, which is similar to ProPilot Assist, which is hands-on autonomous driving. And then you go into blue mode. And when you go into blue mode, not only do you get the notification that you're in ProPilot Assist 2.0 in your heads-up display, but your passengers also see that blue illuminated line inside the car as well, so they feel that comfort level.
That's across the top of the dashboard?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've used lighting cues all across the car so that the car kind of speaks back to you. So it's just that how much control do you want to give the car, and whatever you're comfortable with, that's fine. And once customers have experienced that, they've really come to like it because it does add for a more stress-free driving experience.
So with that, does when it's changing modes, like for example, if you're in hands-free mode and it needs you to put your hands back on the wheel, does that give you a visual cue there?
So you'll see it go back to the green mode. There'll be an audio cue as well that alerts you to the fact that we're leaving ProPilot Assist 2.0 blue mode, and then it will step its way down as you leave. Maybe it's a road condition or a driving condition that says, hey, we need to put your hands back on the wheel. So you stair step down. You don't go right back into, I have to drive the car. No, you go into put your hands on the steering wheel, and you're still in ProPilot Assist mode, where the car is still in an autonomous drive.
That was going to be my next question, because I just last week I was talking with Kelly Funkhauser from Consumer Reports about their recent testing that they did with these level 2 type systems, this lane centering systems. And one of the things that she brought up is some of the systems have that more gradual, I don't want to say degradation, but mode transition, where you go from hands-free lane centering to hands-on lane centering, and they specifically called out GM Super Cruise because when you go from hands-free to hands-on, it's no longer lane centering; it's just lane keep assist, or lane departure assist, so it sounds like Nissan is specifically tried to make that more seamless transition.
It's a great word. I think the designers use that seamless integration throughout many design elements inside the car. So whether it's the technology with ProPilot Assist 2.0, maybe it's technology with Nissan Connect, Hey Alexa, or even Hey Nissan, where you can actually speak to the car and say, set the temperature for 68 degrees. It's just that seamless integration into your driving experience and then your life at home as well with the Alexa integration.
So you got Alexa voice services built in?
Correct.
And is the Ariya the first Nissan model to get that?
Yeah, Hey Alexa?
Yeah.
I believe so.
I think so.
Yeah.
But
I would have to confirm that one.
Let us confirm.
Okay.
I wanted to say yes, but
we've had other integrations with Amazon before, but I don't know. I think it's maybe the first with Alexa.
Yes.
Okay. And one thing I'm curious, you mentioned, so blue is hands off, green is hands on, which is kind of the opposite of GM Super Cruise, where blue is their ready mode and green is the system is active. Do you know, and maybe this is outside of your purview, maybe more for the ADAS things, maybe I should talk to Andy Christensen about this. Whether there's been any discussions, among automakers about standardizing the colors for different modes, for consistency. Because the reality is, some people have multi-vehicle households. They might have multiple brands. When you've got different colors, having different meanings for similar functionality.
Correct.
It can be challenging.
So I can't speak to the greater industry aligning on that. That's a little bit out of my purview. But I can say that there are multiple ways that Nissan in the Ariya is communicating to you, the driver, as far as which mode you're in. So like I said, in that heads-up display, yes, it is the blue icon that you'll see, but you'll clearly see the hands-off or hands-on in there as well. So there are other design elements to try to mitigate that and make sure that the driver feels secure, comfortable, and in whatever drive mode they might be in.
Yeah, and I think that's a key factor with these types of systems is to make it really unambiguous to the driver as to what mode it's in and what you should be doing. Because I know, for example, Ford's Blue Cruise on in the F-150, their graphic design of the instrument cluster, it's not as obvious, unless you look very closely, as to what mode it's in, if you should be hands-on or hands-off. And then like other systems like Blue Cruise and Super Cruise, this one is geofenced, right, to highway operation only?
Correct. It's HD map. So, and you'll see that on the trims that we offer ProPilot Assist 2.0. You'll see the double shark fins on the top of the car. That also signifies being used for the HD mapping.
Okay. And do you know roughly how many miles of roads are included across North America?
I don't have the exact number.
Actually, it's the same as the HD maps. I can get it here in about 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we do have on our website a map on the Nissan USA website, linked to the website itself. So you can go to nissanusa.com, get to the website that shows the map so that you as a customer, or if you're researching, can see what roads near you are HD mapped where ProPilot Assist 2.0 is functioning.
Okay. And right now, is the system able to handle interchanges? If you're going from one highway to another, will it stay active, or do you have to take back control during that interchange?
That will depend on how you're interchanging between the two highways. So if it does meet all of the requirements, then yes, you potentially could. I don't know if it's. I don't know if I can say blanket. All, or I know it's not all, but I don't know how many.
All right. So let's go back to the electrification side of this, because that's kind of an important part of this vehicle. The range, the battery options that you've got on the Ariya. What's available to customers?
So we've got two battery types, two drivetrains. So on the standard range battery, which is the 63 kilowatt battery, that starts at around 205 miles of range. And then as you go up to the 87 kilowatt battery, you can go up to 304 miles of range on the Venture Plus front-wheel drive trim. We also have a few other trims, the Evolve and Empower Plus trims, which will go 289 miles on the front-wheel drive extended range battery.
And for charging, I think one of the big changes, this one relative to the Leaf, is the switch from CHAdeMO for DC fast charging to CCS. And what kind of charging speeds are available on the Ariya?
So for the Ariya, we have 130 kilowatt rate of charge, and that will go from 10% to 80% in about 35 to 40 minutes on a level 3 fast charger.
And what about for AC charging? What's the charging speeds that are supported for home charging or for AC charging?
So charging speed for AC, so if you plug in overnight, I believe you go from 10 to full in about 12 hours.
So do you know, is it like 7.2 kilowatts, 9.6?
So it's for the level 2?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just looking at it. No, I don't have the specific kilowatts on the level 2. I can get that. Yeah, so for the small battery, it's like 10 and a half hours is our official spec. Then for the big battery, 4.
Okay.
Couple.
All right. So
this is 7.2 kilowatt onboard charger.
7.2. Okay. I think one of the other big changes this time around is this shift from an air-cooled battery pack to a liquid-cooled pack. Do you expect that to help improve the durability and the lifespan of the pack? So over time, you get less degradation of capacity?
Yes, that is used for multiple reasons. One of those is exactly what you state right there, as well as optimizing the charge speed. So with that thermal control, optimizes the battery temperature for more efficient rate of charge and quicker charge times when you're...
Is there a preconditioning system built in there? So
there is a preconditioning system in the head unit, so you click through to precondition the battery. If you if you know you're going to charge in 10-20 minutes, you go in there, you precondition the battery, and it will help with the charge time.
Okay. And what other things are, I guess, new or innovative on the Ariya relative to, say, some of the competitions out there? When the Leaf came out, it was the first modern mainstream consumer EV, now the Ariya is coming into a market where you've got some competition from a lot of different brands in similar sized vehicles, similar format vehicles. What is it about the Ariya that you think sets it apart from the competitors?
So, great question, and I think you hit it on the head when you say we're right in the heart of the sweet spot of the segment, in that mid-size SUV segment. And what sets Ariya apart, I think, is the full picture. So that seamless integration of all elements of the driving experience. When you enter the car, it's that space. So you talked about similar sized vehicles, front and rear legroom better than Mach-E. So it's that comfort level when you get inside the car, all the way to the technology. So we offer that intelligent rear view mirror. So we talked about the space. Not only do you have that additional space in the front and the rear, you've also got the intelligent rear view mirror with switch of a button. You can have uninterrupted view of what's behind you.
I'm a big fan of
and if you don't like it, then you can turn it off, and you've got the standard rear view mirror as well. So it's that technology for every type of driver. That's what sets it apart. So we're really keying in on what customers want and understand that certain customers have certain comfort levels. We talked about it with ProPilot Assist 2.0. The integration with the Hey Nissan, so if you don't want to keep your hands on the wheel. And then we didn't talk about is the dual 12.3-inch screens and the 10-inch heads-up display. So that's 3 displays. So that's a lot of screen space. But when this was designed, it was designed as horizontal screens. So you've got a concave screen in front of the driver. So that's like your curved TV for easy viewing. You've got the heads-up display right above that. And then you've got your center screen, which is convex for ease of swiping with the touch screen, ease of swiping, and ease of visualizing what's on the screen as well. And the apps are positioned in a way that's very intuitive, similar to your smartphone. So you can keep your eyes on the road as you're navigating through those screens, or you can even use the voice technology with Hey Nissan if you want to keep your hands on the wheel.
Okay. For now, the Ariya is built in Japan. With the passage of the IRA last summer, some manufacturers are reevaluating their production plans for where vehicles are going to be built. Do you see any likelihood of shifting some production of Ariya to North America to enable it to be actually eligible for some of the clean vehicle credits?
So I can't comment on any decisions being made whether or not Ariya will be moving production from Japan to the U.S., but what I can say is that Nissan is constantly evaluating the changing landscape in terms of the different government regulations that are being passed, as well as other opportunities that may be out there to take advantage of. But I can't say right now exactly definitively if production will be moving.
Okay, well, for the time being, since it is built in Japan, and given that it won't be eligible for the clean vehicle credits, are you seeing any pricing pressure on this? Since you'll have some competitors that will be eligible in the near term or currently. Do you see? Is that going to be a challenge for Nissan?
So we feel, and we firmly feel, that the Nissan Ariya is priced very competitively in the market. Some of those competitors you referenced had been raising prices over the past year or so, and they did drop the price. Nissan hasn't done that. Nissan has been priced competitively since we started reservations, and we remain very competitive even today after those competitors dropped their prices.
Yeah, but some of those competitors, are also going to be eligible for up to $7,500. In most cases, probably just $3,750, but still, potentially several $1,000s of incentives, federal incentives, government incentives. Is that going to put some pressure on Nissan to maybe consider lowering the prices, to match that level?
We're always in the business of monitoring competitive pricing and making adjustments when necessary to make the pricing either more competitive, less competitive, whatever it may be. But right now we're seeing very good demand for the car, and we anticipate that strong demand to continue.
How much capacity will you have available for the U.S. market?
So can't comment on specific production numbers today, but we do prioritize Ariya production. It's very important to us, and we're doing all we can to ensure that we have production that meets demand.
Okay. The other side of the EV story for Nissan, of course, is the Leaf, still with us. It has seen some realignment of trims and pricing in the past year. How's Leaf doing, and how long would you expect that car to, is that something that, is going to be with us for the long term? We're going to see the next generation of the Leaf, or something like that, staying in the Nissan lineup? So
Leaf has been hugely important to Nissan. We've had great success over the past decade plus selling Leaf, and even now as the EV TIV continues to increase, we're seeing even more increased demand for Leaf as well. It's our entry EV. dealers are having, they're selling the car as fast as they're arriving on dealer lots. So we're seeing great turn rates for Leaf and great demand. We are fully behind the Leaf nameplate, and for the foreseeable future, definitely see Leaf as part of the Nissan EV story.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Nissan is one of the few brands that has stuck with smaller cars. Had some success. I mean, you've got some really good small car products, Versa, Sentra, and even Altima that are still selling pretty well. I was just driving a Versa a few weeks ago, right up until the moment that blew out a tire in a pothole in Michigan.
No way.
Right? Well, out of Michigan.
Well, the funny thing is, I was with one of my colleagues. We were going to a meeting, and he just commented on for a cheap car. This is a $20,000 car for an SR.
Affordable. Let's not use the word cheap.
Well, affordable. For an affordable car, it had really good ride quality. It handled rough roads really well, and literally 10 seconds later, pop. To pull over and put on a mini spare. Well, I mean, it happens. But do you see potentially the Leaf brand maybe migrating to some other? You mentioned the value of the Leaf brand to Nissan. Do you see that transitioning to some other vehicle that is electric? Introducing other lower cost, more affordable EVs, and is that something you want to keep in the lineup, an affordable EV?
We definitely want to keep the affordable EV. As we transition, we've announced Ambition 2030. Great time to talk about that. So that we'll see 40% of Nissan's lineup hold battery electric vehicles by 2030. So
in North America or globally?
That's for U.S.
Okay.
So with that, I think as we transition to that 40% number, we're going to see cars and vehicles in the lineup that really meet demand. So we don't get to 40% with one or two EVs. So the lineup will continue to electrify as we get to 40%. So yes, the other 60%, we'll be meeting the customer demand for both sides, whether it's ICE or EV customers.
Yeah, and I think we're talking 40% of sales to be electrified for brand.
Sorry,
15 new models.
Right.
Sorry,
yeah, 40% of volume.
Yeah,
as opposed to nameplates. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So we should definitely be expecting more battery electric models in the Nissan lineup, probably presumably across a range of form factors and sizes and price points.
Yes, and with Ambition 2030, we've announced that $500 million investment in the Canton plant, which will feature another Nissan EV. I believe we've said it's going to be a lower profile EV as well.
Oh, okay. And what's the time frame for that investment?
I believe we announced in the next...
Yeah, we can start production by mid this second.
Okay.
That's where we're going to be around.
Cool. So anything else you can share about the larger Nissan electrification strategy? I think maybe an area you might be able to address. One of the big challenges for companies moving into EVs is charging infrastructure, or the absence of reliability among most of the charging infrastructure that is not Tesla branded right now.
Correct.
What, if anything, is Nissan doing to try to address that for customers to help customers have a better experience with charging?
So that's a great point, and definitely with the infrastructure, Nissan has worked very, very diligently to ensure that our dealer staff at our EV certified dealers are fully trained on the benefits of EVs and also the driving behaviors that customers may see. So every customer is a little bit different, but on average, most customers will be using level 2 charging at their house 80% of the time. So 80% of your charging is done at home. So Nissan offers with a wall box discount when you purchase an Ariya, you get a wall box discount for Nissan for level 2 charging to be installed if you don't have that. So on top of that, with Ariya, you get 1 year unlimited charging with EVgo. So for those times when you are on the road, maybe taking a road trip, you've got EVgo at your fingertips, so you're ready to go. So I think it's number one, education, and then as that infrastructure continues to develop, we also have the largest level 2 and level 3 dealer charging network. So with that EV certification, our dealers have installed multiple level 2 chargers and are now working to install level 3 chargers that Nissan Ariya customers can have at their fingertips as well.
Is that something that Nissan is requiring of dealers to install?
To be EV certified, yes, you have to have, I believe it's between, depending on the size of the dealership, around four level 2 chargers.
Okay. And do you know roughly what percentage of Nissan's dealer network is EV certified today?
So we have over 900 EV certified dealers, and we have a little over, how many dealers do we have total?
Oh, I think it's just about 90%.
Roughly 90%.
90%.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, you've been selling Leafs for a long time now, so So it's always been a nationally available 50-state car. So.
Yep. And that's what we've got EV certified dealers in Alaska and Hawaii as well.
Okay. Speaking of education, this one of the conversations I've had quite frequently of late with some journalists is about the charging speeds and what impacts charging speeds, and it's not like with gas cars. You pull up to a gas pump, and it doesn't matter if your tank is fumes or if it's 75% full. The pump is going to pump gas at a certain number of gallons per minute, regardless. It doesn't matter, and it takes a few minutes. With the EVs, it's a lot more complicated. It depends on what your initial state of charge is, what the temperature is, the ambient temperature, temperature of the battery, all this other stuff. Are you working with your dealers to help them better understand the complexity of the EV charging, and enable them to explain it to customers? So that customers aren't getting frustrated, when they, if they pull up to an EVgo charger with an Ariya that's at 50% state of charge, it's probably not going to charge, I'm assuming, at 130 kilowatts. It's probably going to charge maybe at 60 or 70 or something. Are you working with dealers to help them understand and to enable your customers to understand that better?
Yes, so our training team has put together extensive material that addresses a lot of the items that you're mentioning there. So within that, yes, the EV certified dealers are taking those training courses to ensure that they're educated and able to speak to those different charging requirements, or how different elements might change the charging experience. And then with the Ariya at the 130 kilowatt rate of charge, the designers worked to optimize that and hold that steady rate as well as possible when you compare the charge curves.
Okay. Do you know roughly how long it'll stay? Assume the ideal temperature conditions and everything. Like, up to what state of charge will it maintain that 130?
I don't have that one off the top of my head right now.
How long it'll maintain it up to a certain point? I get the specific numbers from it, but I know it obviously tapers down.
Yeah, I know. I'm just curious, kind of. Exactly. 130. There's others that'll run at much higher speeds, but they will taper down from like 40 or 50% or whatever.
Yeah. So that's where you're going with the question. Yeah, I think we do have that number. So it's between 80 and 90%, but it does maintain a very competitive rate of charge at that level that is safe for the battery with all of the thermal.
Because that's always the challenge: is you want to give the customer the fastest charging experience possible, but you don't want to damage the battery in the process.
Correct.
And so it's finding that balance.
And if you look at, I don't have the graphic with me, but if you look at the charge curve compared to say others, many are just very straight up at the very beginning, and then they taper off very quickly.
Yeah, a Tesla Supercharger will go up to 250 kilowatts, but it starts ramping down from I think about 25 or 30%. By the time you're at 50%, it's down to 100 kilowatts.
Ariya is much more kind of straight line.
You've got the same slide in your head that I'm trying to envision. I just can't remember the numbers on the graph.
Again, to the consumer experience, I think that's actually, if you can explain to consumers that, we don't peak as high, but we maintain that for a much longer period of time, so it's a much more consistent experience for customers. Right. I think consumers may just prefer that. Instead of having to try to get their vehicle, their battery down as much as they can, so they get that maximum state of charge. It's
a bit of a game that they get used to.
And most drivers, a lot of early adopters that are really into this stuff, they like to play that game, and figure out, where do I get the the shortest charging time, for a trip. Yeah. And if you can just pull up and know that it's going to charge at a certain speed, just like I said with the gas pump, it's going to fill at a certain rate, and it doesn't really matter where your starting point is. I think that's a better experience for customers.
Right.
All right. Anything else about Nissan's overall EV strategy that you want to share we haven't talked about?
Just Nissan's whole commitment to EVs, building on the history from Leaf and listening to our customers. I think that's the key point right there is making sure that Nissan's EV strategy meets the customer demands and continues to evolve and grow as the EV-TIV continues to evolve and grow as well.
So when's the Pathfinder EV going to run? I get a lot of questions about where can I get a three-row EV, three-row SUV EV?
My wife asked me the same questions, and I can't even answer that one for her. So
okay. All right. Well, thanks so much, Ted. It's great to talk to you.
Have you ever killed a houseplant before? Don't worry, you are not alone. But what if I told you you're not destined to be a plant killer? What if I told you you could not only fill your home with gorgeous, luscious, happy, thriving plants, but live a happier life through caring for them? Hey, new plant friend, my name is Maria. I am a former plant killer turned happy plant lady and host of the Growing Joy with Plants podcast, where it is my life's mission to help you grow happy plants and thrive alongside them. Because when you learn to care for plants, you really learn to slow down, connect with nature, and nurture yourself too. Each week, I share expert tips, inspiring conversations, and soulful planty wisdom to help you grow a greener, happier life. So if you're ready to turn your plant struggles into plant joy and get the green thumb you've always dreamed of, search Growing Joy with Plants wherever you listen to podcasts and hit subscribe. That's Growing Joy with Plants podcast. Let's grow some joy together.